Lee Rosenbaum. Some time ago, as some of you may know, I did a video of the last day, literally the last day of the operation of the American Folk Art Museum, looking at the interior, explaining what I thought about it. I thought I'd come back to the site now, which is now right next to a construction site, to look at it one last time before it gets demolished. This building is definitely coming down to make way for the next Museum of Modern Art expansion, which will also extend into the lower floors of a 1,050-foot high tower to rise on this site, with some floors at the bottom for MoMA galleries. A lot of people thought that if nothing else, MoMA should have saved this facade. It's very unique. It certainly adds a certain liveliness and variety to what's becoming the MoMA monolith. I thought we'd also take a look down the block and see just what this empire now consists of and how it may change. Perhaps uniquely among art museums, MoMA doesn't seem to be able to expand without building some kind of commercial tower to go along with it. For the Cesar Pelli expansion, it built this, what's called Museum Tower, of luxury residences. And in connection with the Taniguchi expansion, which happened afterwards, they built this other office tower, MoMA's bookstore. And we work our way down the block and past the vendors on the other side of the street here to get to the entrance itself to the museum. The lobby is going to be reconfigured. The entrance is going to become much more dramatic so people can't miss it. And the Folk Art Museum site is going to become a glass box at the bottom, which is going to be a flexible art bay, as it's called, for various projects, performances, the top of which will be what they call a gray box, which can be made a black box for performances, films, or whatever that might need to be darkened, need a darkened space. Smack dab in between the main entrance to MoMA and the site of the original Goodwin Stone building, that light-colored building, which has a very different aesthetic, international style aesthetic, from the rest of the museum. But smack dab between these two things is Museum Tower, rising to the sky, very high, and with an entrance right there, which some people confuse for a museum entrance. The architects of the new expansion, Diller Scofidio and Renfro, say they don't like facadism. They don't like the idea of just keeping the facade of the Folk Art Museum building as a kind of token gesture. But of course, this is facadism right here. This is a preservation of the canopy and the horizontal striations. So there's something to be said for preserving the feeling of the institution's history through its evolving architecture. And although the facade of the Philip Johnson addition to the museum is no longer present on the garden side of the building, the sculpture garden side, it's kept as a kind of facade as well here. It's now an entrance for the Modern, which is the very upscale restaurant, not run by MoMA, but connected, literally connected to the museum's building. Now we're on West 54th Street, the backside of MoMA, and here's the lot where the expansion project is going eventually to commence. The Taniguchi expansion presented a very unlovely facade, if you want to call it that, to the street. This kind of corrugated metal wall, no standing or idling in front of the loading docks any time is the admonition, which is honored in the breach. Here's the truck right now, and here's the loading dock. And here now we get to the rear entrance, if you want to call it that, of MoMA. Then we walk towards the garden, the famous sculpture garden of MoMA, designed originally by Philip Johnson. And again, a tremendous effrontery to the residents of this block who complained about this very forbidding and exclusionary wall. At various times MoMA has promised more transparency, but that hasn't happened. You can kind of peer in between the slats to see the sculpture garden. And most of it is totally blocked off again by this very unlovely prison-like wall that says keep out to general public. Now MoMA has promised, or not promised, but has suggested that it might open up this gate, make it something that's glassed in with a glass door that can swing upward to create a canopy and an open entrance to the street where the public would be able to simply walk in from the street without paying MoMA admission. My guess is it's not going to happen. I heard Liz Diller earlier this week tell a group of architects that they're looking at the possibility of doing that, which seems less than definite. So that Giacometti standing over there may or may not be something that the general public can admire without paying MoMA's hefty admission fee, which we can only think might rise again in connection with the latest expansion. So let's take one last look at this doomed folk art museum building, standing here for not very much longer, soon to be replaced by glass, by the ultra-contemporary, and this very innovative facade is going to become history unless someone has a change of heart, which does not look like it's going to be the case.